Welcome back to Conversations That Matter with Nika Kozyra in a special June series about various matters that are having one aim: to empower you, your life, to be happy and satisfied. Welcome, Nika, again, and happy to have you.
Thank you. Let's get on with part 2.
Yes, let's roll it out. We were talking before about the pain and various aspects in life that are aligned with it. But we finished with the very important subject that I want to talk about in this episode, about validation. Validation and what is actually making us so much hungry to have a validation from outside world, and how usually makes us losing ourselves. What is
So,
validation for you?
so I think validation is a beautiful thing, but like anything, it can go really bad really fast. I think modern sense of validation comes from people saying you're the prettiest, you're the fastest, you're the smartest, and everyone loves you.
Mm.
And that validation of, you're right, they're wrong. It's like you have to be perfect. And I always use the example of sports, right? Growing up as kids, we would play sports and there would be a losing team and there'd be a winning team. Now all the kids get trophies because they all have to be validated that they're all winners. But how could you know that you're winning in life if you've never lost before? So we have this society of people always winning, but they've never won anything, right? So the society is growing and embodying this concept of, you're pretty if your body looks like this, right? You're successful if this is where you live and this is the car that you drive. And it's all materialistic, right? It's all materialistic. None of this stuff feeds you. I mean, I've met some extremely wealthy people in my life. I've worked with some extremely wealthy clients. And the one thing they always are kind of complexed by is I have all of these things. I'm validated. I've reached this level of success. I'm a director. I'm a this. I drive this
Mm.
car. I have a Lamborghini. Whatever the case is, I have a perfect body, right? But I'm not happy because the validation is beautiful to receive from the outside world, right? It's nice when someone says to you, Magdalena, I love your shirts, right? You always have the nicest shirts and the pretty pins, right? It looks beautiful. But if you don't look at yourself in the mirror first and validate yourself, everybody else's validation is just kind of empty because you have to see that within you first. It's kind of like when we talked in the previous episode of the fact that I don't really wear makeup. If I do I put a little bit of makeup on, right? For the series, with the lights and the all of it being really late. But I said, "Oh, you look nice." I
Mm.
looked nice for me first. So if anyone else says to me, "Oh, you look so nice." Thank you. But it had to start with me because if someone tells me I look pretty and I don't think I look pretty, they could tell me 1,000 times. I'm
Mm.
not going to feel pretty. And I think that's why people chase validation because they think the more that they hear it from an external source, the more it's going to actually stick in them internally. If that kind of makes sense.
Do you think the chase, the race for being validated, for being seen, to receive compliments, comes from the past, comes from the childhood, how we were growing up and how we have been seen there? Because when I do work with various people, although I'm talking about and work around leadership, there are almost 90% of cases we need to touch the personal life. Because the way how people are leading their team, the way what kind of attitude they have towards the people, there is the element of personal factors that are having a huge impact. Who they are, how they speak, how they appear. In the past, the childhood, the environment, how the parents were talking to them, or various experience will have a huge impact, especially on the how we perceive self-worth.
I don't think that you can be a human and not have impacts and habits from your childhood that you walk around with today, right? And I think we seek validation. I mean, as children, you look for validation all the time from your parents, right? You know, oh, look, mama, like, I did this. Oh, the most beautiful flower in the world, right?
Yes.
And you want that. You want that praise, but also that validation from parents shapes a healthy ego of the child. So if you're always telling your son or daughter, my princess, my prince, you're the bestest, the smartest, the brightest, the most amazing, that child will feel like they have to spend their entire life here. But if you tell your child, you know what? That was a very nice flower, but you forgot this. And let's add this, right? Teaching
Mhm.
them that there is room for correction, that there is room for improvement. And it's okay if you don't have the prettiest flower drawn in the room. I think it's the prettiest flower. And do you think it's the prettiest flower? And I think that develops a more healthier ego. And because we're constantly chasing this validation, it rolls into the thought of now everyone else around you is ascribing your value. So, one thing that I ask clients is what is the price of admission into your life? Like if you're a club, and we've all been to a club, you're waiting outside, right? You got to pay to get in, right? For the hot spot on a Saturday or Friday
Mhm.
night, what is that admission? Because the hottest clubs are going to cost you the most money to get into. So are you actually charging an admission to get into your life, or you just let anybody in? Because you just rather have a bunch of people around you that tell you you're the prettiest, even if they don't mean it. They tell you you're the smartest, even they don't care. But because you want to stroke your ego, you let them in your life.
I don't know if I do have high, but I have quite closed doors. I don't let everybody in. That's very interesting and a very different perspective to see this subject. But somehow you are right. I was once accused that I'm not good because, yeah, I have no friends. And also the term friend, what does it mean, friend? And then when you are growing and learning certain things, you will stop for a moment. And I was thinking about the person who said to me, you are not okay because you don't have too many friends. Who, look, you are alone. And then, because I made myself stronger, think, who are you to tell me who am I? And who are my friends? First of all, you know nothing. And then I will not say loud, but dear human being, look at yourself, look at your own garden. And the quality of the people that this person is surrounded is not my quality. But to be able to stop yourself, not to get into that trap that you are affected with these kind of comment even. That's the huge work sometimes you need to do. But I never had many friends. I never had many friends. I didn't like noise. And I do not like noise. I like good conversations, not just busy. but a really good one.
So, it's interesting because for me, I wouldn't say I've had a lot of friends, but I've had a lot of people who liked being around me because of the connections
Mm.
or these hookups that I had, right? Like I'm very polarizing. You either meet me and you love me or you meet me and you hate me. And I've always been this way. And when people love me, they love me all the way.
Is it
So
something
I'll
with
go
the
to,
scorpion?
yes, that's 100% a Scorpio thing. But like I'll go to a bar and the bartender loves me. I just leave them a tip. And everybody on my tab doesn't pay for a drink. You know,
Mm.
I go on holiday and I have the same people helping me on holiday and they go above and beyond for me. So everyone who's around me benefits. If I go to Las Vegas, I know a lot of people in Vegas and they always take really good care of me, whether it's in the club or the restaurant or check-in or whatever the case is. And anyone around me benefits from it. I realized without knowing it, I learned that the more I did for people, the more people liked me, and the more people wanted to be around me. And I thought it meant that they cared for me, but they didn't care for me. They cared for what I was doing for them. And
Mm.
a lot of people see me and they're like, "Oh, you're so confident," which makes me smile because I didn't wake up one morning and go, "I want to be confident." This has always been kind of my attitude, my baseline. But I have always sold myself on clearance. I've always made bread out of breadcrumbs. People would just give me a little bit and I'd be like, "Oh my God, so thank you, great." Because I didn't love me. I
Mm.
I I was in a really abusive, toxic relationship, and any tiny bit of affection that that person had for me, I just I magnified it and I was like, "Oh my God, like he loves me so much." And he treated me like crap. It was such an abusive relationship, but
Mm.
I didn't love me. So when you start to talk in terms of validation, when you start to talk in terms of assigning your own value, you have to assign those things. But majority of the times, we look for external sources to ascribe that value to us. And then we end up being used, we end up getting abused, right?
Frustrated as well, angry with the
Frustrated.
world, blaming
Yeah,
everybody because you
absolutely.
you did so much for them and they didn't see, but actually no one asks. When we were having our first call, I have noted because I really like what you have said. If you don't know your value, people will price you. And that's something can hit. Will be many people who say, no, it's not true. What are you talking? All my friends are loving me. But I have learned that hard lesson. And later on, when I work with also a group of people, say, you have friends. Okay, let's check that out. Go to your friend and tell that you are having a problem and give 1, 2, 3. Yes? Give some context of the problem and wait for their reaction. There will be following up question from your friend. Like, what do you mean? What do you need? The leading question. Can you tell me more? The question that shows the interest in your problem. Or your friend, like, oh my God, I know what you are talking. Last year I had exactly the same thing. And you know what? My husband did this, my wife did this, da, da, da. The moment they are shifting to their own story, and you have no chance to share even more about your problem, that's the moment you have to question, is this your friend? Because there is sometimes, I mean, for me, it's showing there is actually no healthy attention to the relationship. And from even own perspective, giving was oh my God, I love to give. What makes you happy? when other people are happy. But it was another cry for attention
Mm.
that I wasn't aware. I wanted to be important for the people. So actually, when you start practicing the smart exercises, you start hearing yourself, you start seeing more than feeling your hunger. Then you can see, like you just said, they like you, not for you, but for the things you have done for them.
Absolutely. I mean, and the unfortunate part about that is that I don't think people really realize how much of takers they are because we have raised people to be narcissistic, number one, and me, I. And number two, most people don't listen to listen, hear, and understand. They listen to respond.
That's, that's so true.
So that's a fundamental um like skill set that I think is really missing within current society is that we are not actually communicating to bond and to understand, empathize, and or sympathize with another person. We're just
Mm.
waiting for our turn to speak. I mean, when I deal with couples, for example, and I do like couples counseling or anything like that, I tell people all the time, there's no such thing as a a problem or issues. It's lack of proper communication.
But we are not taught about communication. So it's interesting actually why the education environment, academic environment, is not opening that subject.
Well, I mean, in my opinion, it goes back to the first episode, right? It's like we mentioned, the more disconnected you are from yourself, the less you can connect to someone else. So, I mean, and it's also understanding different communication styles. Just because I express myself this way, it doesn't mean this is the right way. This is my communication style. So, if I'm, for example, speaking to somebody who has a different communication style and a different reception, I, as the
Mhm.
person who's trying to communicate to you, it's my responsibility to say things in a way that you are going to receive. And the prime example of that is a child. You're not going to use big words or complex sentences to a 2 year old.
Yeah.
You're going to say, "Are you hungry?" Right? And I'm not trying to say that you have to talk to people like they're Neanderthals, but you have to also understand that people communicate in different ways. Men and women, totally different communication styles. I literally had a client who they just were not getting it when I was trying to explain to her that's great that you're giving your significant other all of these words of he's handsome and you're so good looking and whatever, but that's not what he values, right? That's not his love language. His love language is acts of service. It's cutting up the fruits and vegetables before he starts cooking for you guys. And no matter how much I was trying to explain that to her, she saw it from this narcissistic point of view
Mhm.
of, yeah, but I'm telling him he looks great. Okay, well, good for you. And but that's not how his receptors pick this up. So the biggest takeaway I hope people understand from this episode is if you're communicating a concept, a thought, an emotion, an experience with someone or your audience, you need to understand that there needs to be modification with the way that you decide to communicate that thought because it's your responsibility as the person who's trying to get that information across in order to hit your target audience, not their responsibility to
Mhm.
change their receptors to receive your way.
How can I recognize I'm overgiving?
I think you're overgiving when you get angry or resentful or you hit fatigue. I think those are just really simple signs because if you're giving and it feels good, then you should keep giving. But when you're tired or fatigued, or you start to get angry, or you're like, well, this person's not doing this for me, stop giving, because people are takers. So if you keep giving, people will just keep taking. And it once again goes back into the simple concept of knowing who you are and then asking yourself, are you giving, or are you giving because you think that's the only way people are going to like you and value you? And it's not you that they're valuing the things that you're doing for them.
Mm.
And that basically is called people pleasing. And people pleasing goes into various shapes and sizes. I mean, you know, I realized that my mom was the happiest when I bought her things as a kid. So I would always try to buy her things and spoil her materialistically. And my mom is more materialistic in a lot of ways than I am. And then I realized more people wanted to be around me when, I was like, oh, yeah, I'll pay for dinner, or, oh, I have your movie ticket, or, you know what I mean?
Mm.
But I didn't realize it at the time. I'm thinking I'm being generous. But when I stopped paying for things and when I started valuing my money that I work hard for, it was a ghost town.
Okay.
Because
That's
when I went through financial stuff, not a single person said, oh, Veronica, let me take you out to dinner. Or, hey, I hear things are going on with you. Like, do you need any help? Like, do you need anything? I had this girl that I was friends with. Like, I used to buy her son backpacks to go to school. And, I would, take him on little trips and help. And then when it was time for her to just show up and be my friend, she was nowhere to be found.
this is again. What does it mean, friendship?
Well, I think you have different friendships in different phases of your life.
Mm.
I had this girl that I was friends with since we are 17. I took her, she was my bestie. I took her on as a client because she was having a lot of infertility issues, a decade of struggling to get pregnant. Working with me after 4.5 months, she got pregnant naturally. The doctors couldn't believe it. And she had a super healthy pregnancy. I coached her through her whole pregnancy, and baby came out beautiful. And then our friendship fell apart. No rhyme, no reason, nothing. And the thing for me was, because I've tapped into the spirituality in my life, I had this weird feeling that when I got her pregnant, I knew my friendship wasn't going to last with her anymore. And I've spoken to other spiritual people, and they call it what's called like a soul contract, that in a prior life, basically
Mm.
I signed this soul contract to do this one deed. And maybe that's what it is. I mean, I don't know. I'm not on that level of like mysticism and stuff like that. And I'm not saying there's anything wrong with it. I mean, I'm not there, right? But instead of being angry about that relationship and about almost, 23 years of friendship, I said, she served her purpose in my life. Because I've
Mm.
started to look at my life, and this goes back to validation, to valuing yourself, to friendship, right? Communication. Life is a plate. You can't get something new on it if the plate is overfilled. So sometimes people need to leave your life in order for something bigger and better. And it doesn't mean there needs to be anger or anything like that. It's just they've served their purpose in this chapter of your life. So I have now become more unattached of the result of the people that I meet. So if I
Mm.
meet someone, I always meet and hope that this is someone that's going to be in my life for longevity. And if they're not, that's okay. They weren't meant to be.
Mm.
And that for me personally, and I've seen this with my clients, the more you are no longer attached to this, we're going to be best friends forever,
Mm.
the more you allow yourself to have new people, new opportunities come into your life.
If we consider to grow, if we feeling in ourselves this discomfort, I think meeting with other people outside our circle is a great source of something new to let enter your life. The mindset, the idea, the behavior, because if you enter the new group of people who is completely outside of your interest, you suddenly hear different language, different behavior, different way how people treat themselves. And that's the element where you can learn something new, you can grow. And I liked also what you have said on our previous episode, use every experience as a blessing. So for both positive or negative experience, use it as a blessing. Why woman? I mean, not only woman, also a man. But maybe we talk more about women. But why there are people who are building the relationship based on caring too much about others and how it impacts the health. You said about fatigue.
Fatigue is literally, from my experience, a lack of proper energy, right? And that goes back to what we touched on in the first episode, where we are all energetic beings, so we need that energy. So I'll use the prime example of how many people do you have in your current life that maybe you go to dinner with and you're like, oh, I am so tired. How many people do you leave that dinner with and you're like, that was great. Can't wait to do it again.
Mm,
Energy. So that, I mean, I could be
I like
exhausted.
that.
I could have worked 70, 80 hours that week. I'll go out with my partner of almost 10 years. Her and I will go eat some seafood and grab some drinks. And we always have the best conversations. I mean, she's one of the few people in my life that I could sit and talk to for hours. Like, we one day sat at our bar for 8 hours, a whole shift. And I walked out of there like amazing. And I'm so blessed to have so many, men that I work with, and, we'll meet up and we'll talk, and you just leave, like, you're just electrified. I think fatigue is actually not difficult to fix and adjust. It's understanding what it actually is. And fatigue is just you not getting properly fed, and you are an energetic being and you need positive energy. It's the same difference as, how good does it feel to walk out and the sun is on your face and you immediately like just smile. But yet when it's rainy and it's cold and it's crappy outside, what
It's
happens? You're
having
like,
another impact.
yeah, huge impact. Humans, every day we energize. So imagine, let's say, in a relationship, you are feeling like you're not heard, you're not appreciated, your partner isn't um, providing for you, isn't
Mm,
uh, being thoughtful towards you, but you're the one who's thoughtful, you're caring, you're proactive, you're the planner. Well, you're pouring into him, let's say, and but you're empty. You cannot pour from an empty cup. And
yeah.
the thing is, a lot of the times, people don't even know they're draining you because you're not opening your mouth and communicating to them what it is that you need. People want people to be mind readers. Like, I am more masculine in the way I think. And I think that maybe is because it's always been around more men in my life.
Mm-hmm.
But I even find a struggle with a lot of female friendships where they think I'm just supposed to know. Like, it's like there needs to be a crystal ball to be friends with these females. And I just don't get it. Just tell me what it is that you want. I'll give you the simple example of choosing a restaurant.
Mm-hmm.
Magdalena, where do you want to eat? Oh, I don't care, wherever you want to go eat. Okay, you sure you don't want to go anywhere that? No, 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 wherever you want. Wherever you want, we'll go. Okay, great. So we go to, a Greek place, and you're like, what happened? Oh, I didn't want Greek. Why didn't you say that before we came in here?
Mm,
Like, how was I supposed to know? And that, I think, is a huge disconnect between men and women, because men are simple, right?
concrete.
They're you're hungry? Cool. You want to eat this? Great. Let's
Mm,
go. Women are like, well, I don't know, because I had chicken for dinner the other day and I'm gonna have fish for tomorrow. And that there's fine, right? And I'm
I
being
need to check
sleep.
my calendar if I will still
Yeah.
be on my calorie count. Yes.
Yes, yes. Whereas men are not complicated that way. And then the levels of communication between men and women are totally different.
Mm.
Because how many times have you gone out with a group of girls? You get pretty, you do your hair, you go to a little nice
Mm.
outfit, you go to a cute little place, right? You are all sitting there having your drinks, maybe some dinner. And at the end of the night, someone's crying into their drink, talking about their relationships or their job or whatever stressors or family stuff. And all the women are like, oh my God, poor baby. Like, we got you, girl
Mm.
power. Yes, right? Do you know how men communicate? Two guys will meet at a bar. Hey, what's up, bro? How's it going? Oh, my wife left me. Man, sucks. Did you see the game though? That was crazy last night. Did you see the game? Oh my God, I think you broke. That's it. I mean, I was literally having dinner today before we started shooting, and there was four different sets of groups of guys that came through. None of them talked to each other. My friend and I, who met up, didn't stop talking since the minute she said hello. And then as we're leaving, I'm trying to say goodbye to her, and she's still talking, right? It's a different, it's just socially a different construct. And I think us as women, we need to be more cognizant of the fact that we need to do a better job when it comes to relationships of actually being direct, effective communicators. And men need to know that we are saying things literally because a lot of women talk in between the lines. Well, I told them I didn't want Chinese. Well, that didn't mean I know you wanted Greek. Just tell me you wanted Greek, right? So I think the more that we are honest and more vulnerable with
Mm.
why we want things, why do you want to sleep on the left side of the bed? Well, maybe it comes from a
No
childhood
one is
trauma.
asking this question, huh?
No,
The
no.
space is taken granted.
Yeah. Everyone assumes that they know everything about you. And how don't people know? How don't
Mm.
people know?
I
Well,
agree with you. Communication is a huge thing. And while we are in that cloud, what kind of advice you will have for people to rediscover themselves, to reconnect with the true self?
I mean, I think a lot of people have become such people pleasers that they do things and they say things because that's what they think they need to do or they need to say.
Mm.
And if they are just honest about how they think or they feel, they're afraid that they might get penalized, right? But if
Mm.
everybody was more honest, transparent, and direct in their thoughts, feelings, and experiences, that would lead to a much healthier communication and connection. And it's a more enriching connection with those people around you. So the next time you're engaging in a conversation, don't tell the person what you think they want to hear or what you think is societally acceptable. Just be honest. You know, I'll give you a prime example. One of the guys at my job, he got a new car. He got these ugly yellow reflective tints on his window. It looks like someone peed all over his windows. And everyone was like, oh, yeah, that looks cool. And I said, that looks like total crap. Like, how did you pay for this? And the thing is, everyone behind his back was saying how
Mm.
ugly it looked. But to
But
his
to the
face,
face.
it was the coolest car around. I said, that car looks terrible. Absolutely terrible. And the thing is, truth hurts. And that's okay because truly believe I rather be hurt by the truth than pacified by a lie any day of the week. Because there aren't many things in this world that you actually own. except for the words and intentions that come out of your mouth and your mind.
Mm.
Everything else is just reactionary. So if you want to be more authentic, if you want to be someone who is more um, strong, confident, start by speaking your truth first. I know I have worked with so many couples who go to restaurants that one of the partners absolutely hates, and their partner swears up and down it's their favorite restaurant
Mm.
because in all the years they've been together, they they have had no conversation. And that leads back to why relationships fall apart and why people start to become roommates. The difference between me and you as friends is we talk about things, but then we go our separate ways.
Mm.
My partner and I live together. So when I talk to my partner about intimate things, I can't run away from him. I see him in bed that night or in the morning. And if you can own your truth with your partner and they own theirs with you, you're going to build a bond that's really unbreakable because you're seeing each other at your worst, at your ugliest, all your past mistakes, all the things that you're ashamed of. And that person knows these things about you and they're still choosing to be there.
Relationships are falling apart. We are having this misconnection based on miscommunication. And it's very nicely going back to the people pleaser. But in addition to it, we somehow pleasing people without clear purpose. So it's like blindly. And it's for me, this is showcase of couple is going for years to the same restaurant and one of them they hate it. So I'm pleasing, but actually what's the purpose that I'm pleasing? Where is the happiness if we both do not have a good experience at that moment? There was a show, woman came for a show, and the interviewer is asking, are you married? Yes, I am. Is your husband happy? And she's like, huh? Are you asking about my husband? Yes, just for the respect that he is not with us here, just wanted to ask you, is your husband happy? How many wives, how many husbands will ask each other, not only how are you feeling today? How was your day today with the listening? But are you happy? And then choosing the silence, because we are told silence is a gold, and we are rotting from inside. So that's the side effect of overgiving. This is how I would say. Will you agree with me?
I mean, I don't think there's anything wrong with giving. It's the fact that you're giving for the wrong reasons.
Mm.
Because, you can give and give and give, but if it's for the right reasons, you don't feel depleted. And if it's truly appreciated by the person and there's that energy exchange, you walk out of it feeling even better. But most people give because they feel like that's the only way that someone is going to love them and like them and accept them and want to be around them.
Mm.
And when they start to build that boundary of not giving, 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 nobody's around because they didn't actually care for you as a person that you are. They cared for the utility that you had. And I mean, and when I've worked with couples, it's like it's it's so interesting how many people have been together for years and they don't know anything about them. I have had people, well, because when I do couples counseling, I do a session with the one spouse, a session with the other
Mm.
spouse, and then a group session. The amount of people that I have spoken to where the wife told me something she's never told her husband, the husband has told me never, and then I'm like, but you guys have like 3 kids together, so you have been physically intimate. You could have children together, but you
Mm.
can't even have this conversation
Ah.
with your spouse.
we please people because pleasing the people is creating a kind of noise in our life. This noise is protecting us to face the reality. You mentioned on previous episode when you went through the healing process and you understand the source of your anger and you started to be free from the anger. It was not an easy moment because you were actually like, oh, it's the first time I'm seeing myself. Who are you? And people are somehow afraid of that moment because when they face that, it's like, well, get ready for work. Maybe not today. Not today. Ring, ring, ring. Let's do the noise. Let's buy the dinner.
I mean, the hardest relationship you have in your life is with yourself
Mm.
because you can't escape this. You can't escape this. You can't escape your memories. You can't escape all the things that are sitting in the closet or underneath the carpet. You can't escape yourself. You can try all you want to, and there's going to be manifestations, whether they're physical or mental or emotional, that will come off from pushing those things to the side. But it doesn't change the fact that you can't get away from yourself.
Mm.
And when it comes to creating noise, people much rather stay in a shitty situation that they know than go to something that they don't know anything about.
That's also
Because,
interesting, right?
well, but it makes sense though, because we don't like to be uncomfortable.
Mm.
And we live in this, especially now, we live in this society of comfort, of convenience. But the bottom line is, you're never going to grow from a place of comfort. So when I work with my clients, my biggest thing is I challenge them and I make them uncomfortable because that's when their growth actually occurs. Not me allowing them to stay in this comfortable space of comfort and, what they already know. I'm going to push you to a place that you may have thought you've never been in. And that's where you grow. It's like if you, let's say, you go to the gym. Let's
Mm.
say if every day you go to the gym and you run a mile, but today you ran a mile and a half. You're going to be feeling that mile and a half tomorrow,
For sure. Yes.
right? So it's the same with the mental, emotional, and spiritual. All those muscles need to be utilized as well. And that's the goal, right? That's in my world, what we should strive for, in my opinion, is be better tomorrow than we were today. Because if, one thing my mom always said is if you're not swimming, you're sinking. So if you're not going somewhere, you're just going to sink. And most people sink, they find a comfortable place at the bottom of the ocean, and then they
Mm.
just work
I
Monday
like
through
that
Friday,
analogy.
you know, Monday through
Yeah.
Friday, Netflix and chill, go on 2 vacations a year, and then they die. And that's it. That was good for that.
Mm. And then at the end, yeah, what could I achieve? We didn't do anything. Yes, what could I achieve?
And then
This
it's your
not
partner's fault, right? Then it's
absolutely
right. It's
because
it's his
he or
fault.
she
It's her
didn't think
fault.
about that. Yeah,
Right.
it's interesting how much energy we do have for other people, even for the practicing of people pleaser, and how little we want to give that energy to ourselves. From the learning perspective and discovering. So, what is your life lesson that you have found in your journey and you wish to share with everybody else?
I think the most powerful thing I've learned is called reframing my thoughts and my experiences. So I am no longer someone that is attached to something that happened. I
Mm-hmm.
look at the situation and I go, okay, how can I look at it from a different perspective? Right. And it's I'll give you a prime example. My car got broken into and my back window got smashed out, stole everything in my car. But when I filed the insurance claim, not only did they fix the window, replace the items, but they fixed my windshield that was cracked.
Mm.
My windshield alone would have been over $1,000. I only paid a $500 deductible for all of it. Was it an inconvenience? Absolutely. Did I still save myself some money? Yes, I did. Right?
Yes.
Take the blessing out of the lesson. And it's just about reframing the situation. You know, I think the biggest lesson of that was I was in a really, really abusive, toxic relationship in my early 30s. And that relationship broke me, like
Mm.
completely broke me. Either I was going to be 6 feet under or he was going to be 6 feet under. It was very abusive and toxic. And this is not something I really talk about often, because I no longer connect to that situation in so many ways. But
Mm.
I'm so grateful for that experience because I realized he didn't do anything to me that I didn't allow to happen, number one. And number two, I would have never invited somebody like that into my space if there was not a part of me that had a crack for that person to be into. And I'm so grateful that I allowed that person to break me, and really it broke me completely. And there was no excuse me, there was no foundation. It was rubble. It forced me to rebuild myself stronger,
Mm.
sturdier, and I know where every single brick is. I know my value. I know who I am. I'm not going to allow someone to give me breadcrumbs and make bread out of it. This is me. I'm unapologetically myself. I appreciate validation from other people, but I validate myself first and foremost because I love myself. I appreciate myself. I know who I am. I know the value that I bring to people. And there is a VIP admission to stay into this club. I'll let you visit. You could take a tour, but there's a VIP access only to stay into it.
I love that VIP. I really love that. And for me, still, if you don't know your value, people will price you. That's a huge and very much empowering statement. And I think many of us can take a moment to sit, let it sink in our mind, because it has really amazing power. There are the weaknesses in us, and those weaknesses are calling to switch them to our strengths. They are becoming our opportunities to make us strong. And wherever you are in your life, wherever relationships you do have with your parents, with your friends, with your spouse, if it's not okay, it's not your way to blame them. You need to face yourself, your reality, and are you actually delivering a good quality? We are responsible for everything what is in us, around us, in front of us. So, not nice to hear, but right? But that's the truth. That's the harsh truth. You are accountable. You are accountable for whatever is happening in your life. And I also like what you said. There is nothing in life others to do without our permission. If something happened, it means we permit it. Then the question is, what was it that you have permitted? Dive and learn. Thank you very much, Nika, for today. And we see each other next week for the episode number 3. Episode number 1, it's healing us from the pain. Today's Nika is showing us we need to give the prize to yourself before someone else will do that. And it's not egoistic, right? It's not egoistic, absolutely. And yeah, the next episode will be another break for our power. Dziękuję
Have a
bardzo.
dziękuję, dziękuję.